welcome to another episode of the Way It Is podcast. Got Mr. Jeff Keith here from the Columbus, Ohio shop. And before we start talking to Jeff, we got to take care of our sponsors because they pay the bills around here. So our sponsor for this episode is Wixton Outfitters. They do hunting trips, particular deer hunting trips. I kind of read off of my notes here, the show notes, but they're located in a very affluent area of Columbus, Ohio. And again, they handle deer hunting expeditions. And their motto is, don't worry if you don't get anything, just enjoy being out in nature. And it apparently pretty popular down that way because I got some 5-star reviews here that I want to read for you. So one of the reviews, the reviewer says, while in the woods, my guide watched a bunch of TikTok videos on hunting and was able to give me some good tips that I may eventually be able to use. Got another review. I was worried that this would be a boring hunting trip, but my guide talked the entire time. He has a lot of far-fetched stories that kept me from boredom in the woods. And then we got a third reviewer who says, hey, speaking of my guide's stories, a lot of deer walked up and listened while he was telling his stories. This goes to show that he has a connection with nature. So Wixton Outfitters, reach out to them if you're interested in a hunting trip. Right now they have a special going on, list price plus 20%. That's a heck of a deal, ain't it?
A heck of a deal.
Yeah, that's a heck of a deal. So we got Mr. Jeff Keith here. Hey, we got a new setup here. So normally when we used to do these podcasts, we just had 2 chairs, but now we got this table. So I kind of like this. Yeah, it's a little bit better of a situation. So, all right, Jeff, let's go in here. What year did you start working for Brechbuhler Scales?
2005, May of 2005.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you started out initially, you were hired in for concrete crew, correct?
Yes.
So that's where you started going. Now, everybody has a story when they first started of what they thought, but you hire in and you start getting exposed to some scales. Now, probably mostly you're pouring foundations at that point, but yet you're still probably when there's downtime going out on PIs, going out on repairs. So what was your first thoughts about?
All right.
I should have took that other job.
No, actually it was, you're exactly right. We did a lot of concrete in the very beginning. Probably didn't get on the first concrete job until I was here for, I don't know, maybe my second or third week. So there was a little bit of going out in the field and doing I guess getting to know what the scale world was really like. So, I mean, it was a little complex in the very beginning, just because all I do was really construction and concrete. But yeah, it was very interesting.
Now all of a sudden you're going out and seeing, because till you get into the business, you have no idea. But yeah, and then you start realizing that every product you touch comes across, your scales. Well, you think bathroom scales or the scales alongside the interstate, it's what you think about. And then you get into the business. Like, oh, wow. Yeah. It was
First day was a jack and grease.
What kind of scale, you remember?
I think it was an old Fairbanks mechanical, but above ground portable. I think it was a portable frame.
Concrete deck, you remember?
I think so. Yep.
Who was you out with, Earl?
Guys, it was Mr. Dave Brooks, who works for a competitor now.
And then, again, initially hired in for concrete. Now I want to go back here. So pre-Brechbuhler, kind of, you get out of high school, and how'd you get started in the concrete business?
Well, I got started off, first job was actually because I had no idea what I wanted to do outside of high school, because when I was in high school, the plan was to go play football, go to college. Didn't end up going that route. So immediately got into the workforce. My dad actually got me hooked up with a guy doing basement waterproofing. Did that for a year or two. Felt like I kind of mastered that, but it wasn't rocket science. So it was actually kind of neat, going in, digging up basements, doing a lot of hard work. learned a lot of good hardworking skills.
Sure.
So it was kind of a neat little trade to get into. I don't think it was as, I want to say, as stable. Really didn't have the insurance, anything like that. So ended up maybe a couple of years, and then ended up going to work for a guy that done concrete. I said, well, let's give concrete a try, because we did a little bit of concrete, doing basic waterproofing. And yeah, I think that's where I thought I found my niche at that point in time, because I was able to see grade pretty well. Was able to really learn how to do the trade pretty well. And I always felt like I was a good hard worker, and really strived to work, as hard as I could. And so did that, worked for that guy for a couple years, and then off to my own business, started my own business. Can't remember exactly how many years, 4, 5, 6 years, what have you. And up to 11 guys on the crew. And ended up finally just getting rid of that, because found out I had a muscle cramping disorder that just developed worse and worse over time. So finally had to get out of the business. And then small stint with Shelley and Sands doing road work, and did a lot of traveling out of town while I was going to nine different specialists, I believe, just to figure out what was wrong with me. Ultimate diagnosis was severe muscle cramping disorder. So there's another name for it as well. But yeah, so there was nothing they could do for me to fix the issue. So here I am. Started Brechbuhler Scales afterwards.
Now, real quick, before we come back to your time at Brechbuhler, I remember you talking about that you were working on a concrete crew that was laying concrete for US 30, kind of, I think, be out near Upper Sandusky.
Yeah, way over there. Yeah, Bucyrus area, up around there.
And, so that's when they were converting it from 2-lane to 4-lane. And they use like a slip form paver that it keeps moving, and you keep adding concrete into it from the trucks.
It has like 1 million vibrators on the big machine. I think it's the Cormac or whatever. Some kind of a big paving equipment. And basically they don't use concrete trucks. They use dump trucks, and dump trucks are just lined up, and they just dump the concrete right down, and the paving machine just starts to go to town once there's enough concrete there, and they just keep dumping, and you just have to continue to keeping up to actually finish the concrete.
Now, is the rebar mat already in place?
No. What they don't use rebar. What they use, I forget exactly the name, what it's called, but they use it's like section joints, like every 10 foot. There's rods that they place in, but it's like a basket. It's probably 18 inches long, and it has rods every 12 inches. If I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time. And you basically cut a piece of the metal off of it that holds it together, and that way when it does expand and contract, the rods move back and forth with it. So
the road bed itself is not rebarred. It's just 12 inches of concrete, but they put expansion joints in
yes, I think it's every 10 feet.
Gotcha. To keep, so the road can flex and move. What's the biggest scale foundation that you were ever part of pouring? Do you remember?
I think 120 footer, 130 footer, somewhere around there, I want to say. Maybe that was at Gravel Quarry down on South 23. We put 2 of them in. I think Andy and Greg actually came down for both of those.
For the pour or for set?
Oh, I'm sorry. Pouring, I would still say we at least 100 footer. Yeah, for sure. But I just don't remember which one. We done so many of them. Not only did I do them for Columbus, I did them for some other branches as well. So
yeah, because you guys would help out. Yeah. To help out Cincinnati and Dayton too, correct?
Dayton. I think we even went out to Lima, maybe even up in Van Wert, maybe. Yep. So
now I heard a couple times, it's just rumor, a couple of them concrete jobs, when that concrete was setting up a little too quick or whatever, you might have launched a hard hat.
Just a few times. Might have broke a few too.
You ever have You ever have forms break out when you're pouring a scale foundation where they come apart and the concrete started?
Oh, have we had it? Yes. Do we learn from it? Yes. Do we do everything we can to kick the crap out of them? Yes. Yeah, we had a big, thick, 10-foot approach. We poured, it was actually probably 6 foot thick because that's how the customer wanted it poured. It was in Columbus. There was 2 of them and it wasn't braced all the way. And so, there hasn't been one I haven't been able to, start to see it to blow and then catch it. So we've always been able to fix them. Actually, I think one up in Fort Wayne, we actually, it was a pit extension. We had it start to blow, because, we didn't have any forms on the outside. It was just on the inside. So and we had it braced in the middle, but then we ended up, once we started to see it blow, we stopped and then had to get back to, hey, let's kick it some more on the outside. And we just had to find some things to kick it to. So, yeah.
Did a hard hat get launched when it started blowing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How many folks did you normally have on a concrete crew?
Usually 3 to 4, somewhere around there. We would pour a normal foundation. I want to say we got to a point where we were pouring in 3, have it done and complete in 3 days. So, that's foundation, and maybe approaches. If we had some big ramps, and trust me, we had some long ramps on certain ones, maybe it would take up to a week. It just depends.
So start out for, decent chunk of the beginning part of your career on concrete, but obviously it's not going to be every day.
Right.
So you're going to be going out on scales, but then at some point in time, you kind of transition more into working on scales, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So kind of how did you mostly do truck scales, or was it more smaller capacity, floor scales, hoppers, stuff like that? Or was it kind of mix of everything?
It was really a mix of everything. So it was a little different for me because I already knew concrete. So we had some other guys, that actually kind of worked on the concrete crew. It was a little bit harder for them to learn the scale side, but when I was away from concrete, I was able to learn the scale. So I really took to it probably easier than those guys because they had to learn 2 aspects of the job because, most of those guys started right around the same time as I did.
So they were hired in to do both, but they had no experience on
Exactly.
either. Okay.
Exactly. So it was a little bit easier for me to focus on scales. But it was still complex because I wouldn't say that we really had anybody back then to be able to teach us exactly the way we needed to be trained. So I really had to learn from a lot of the experiences.
On the scale side. Yeah. So speaking of that, how did you start trying to pick up the technical side of the trade? Because obviously, at this point in time, the majority of your career has been concrete, heavy construction. Now, all of a sudden, you're trying to pivot and start to learn the technical side.
So in the beginning, I think I really gravitated towards the truck scale side because I did have a CDL when I started. So it was easier to gravitate towards that aspect, and then started sprinkling some of the smaller scale capacity stuff. And it really wasn't until just failure after failure after failure, or being put in a situation where, I had to do it. And then I'm on the phone with tech support. So tech support after tech support. I mean, I can think of so many people I called, and they bailed me out on a consistent basis. That's really how I learned.
Kind of learned from actually just going out in the field, doing it, calling the folks you needed to call, and then learn from that experience and take it and move to the
until recently, probably, when I say recently, maybe 7-8 years ago. I mean, everybody that I met through the company was on the phone, tech support. I called anybody and everybody because I was in a situation and I had to get out of it. And no matter what, I was going to stick to it. If anybody knew me back then and even now, I was going to stick to it until the job was done.
Got to figure it out. Favorite job's always been installing truck scale, right?
100%.
Hey, you guys have a nice install trailer down there. Let's talk about that for just a moment.
Loading and unloading, getting ready for the installs. I always told Dave, in Columbus. And I'm like, hey, Dave, I really think that there's something different we can do. I feel like this is really inefficient. So finally got to a stage where we were able to look at it a little bit different. I talked to him. I said, okay, this is what I think we need. If anybody knows Dave, hey, you come up with an idea, hey, if it sounds great, Dave, let's go for it. So came up with exactly the plan of what we needed, told him what we were going to do. He went and bought the trailer, brought it back. We built shelves for it to house all the tools. Actually, the trailer is a pretty good sized trailer. I can't remember how big it is. I want to say it's a 12, 14 footer. It's a pretty tall trailer. We got the taller one. Enclosed trailer. It's got the door that drops off the back, so it's a ramp. Come to find out, it was still too small. It houses everything we really need, but when I say too small, really for the capacity of everything that we want, to be able to put chains and radiators, just everything that we'd like to have in there. It's just still not heavy duty enough, but it still works. And now the problem is just making sure everything stays in that trailer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you ever run into trouble?
We sure
Guys don't put the stuff back.
Yeah, ask Mr. Wood. He's the one that usually has to go through and fix it all. It really gets to him. I wish people would just put stuff back. But
what year did you start out as the service manager then? Because again, to keep everything in line, you started out a concrete crew, then kind of gravitated more to being a scale technician, still doing some concrete. But then at some point, then you transitioned into service manager at Columbus. About what year was that?
I would say right around 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. Dave and I was having a conversation. There was a lot of things that I really, for lack of better terms, just didn't like at the time that were going on. So we were having a big conversation about it, and basically he asked me a question. Hey, I'd hope that you maybe think about the question I've asked you 2 or 3 times, which was stepping up to be a service manager, which I turned down for 2 or 3 times. Understand, I had my own business, I knew what that was like, the amount of pressure and all that good stuff. And so I really, at that point in time, really didn't want it. But, I really thought about it for a good minute and a half while we were sitting there. I said, you know what, look no further. Here we go. Let's do this. But guess what? We're going to do this my way. And boy, did I get in a mess saying that. So just trying to do it my way.
Yeah. You learned not to do that again. Did you ever think about quitting and going back in the field?
Yeah, sometimes it was, it's kind of rough. How about you?
Yep. Yeah. Many times, especially when your brain is saturated from so many calls coming in and trying to handle problems. Speaking of that, what's the you got, at the time you had 8 to 10 folks, 2 sales, so good, one of the biggest branches. What's real quick, what's life like for a service manager at a large branch? What's a day look like?
Very chaotic. So I learned very early on that there was, like I said, I wanted to do this my way. So there was a lot of different things that I had to learn along the way. So I tried a lot of things and failed at a lot of different things. I tell people all the time, I can't tell you how many cliffs I drove off of. And then Dave Beck will look at me and say, well, guess what? You want to do it your way. You weren't going to listen to me anyway. So, fortunately, I did have that experience and being able to drive off many, many cliffs just to get to where we are now. And, at the end of the day, it was one of those things to where you come in early in the morning and then you still can't come in early enough. And you stay late at night and you still can't stay late enough. And then, you get to a point to where, all these things are going on throughout the day and you're trying to be as perfect as possible. You're trying to be there for the guys. You're trying to, take some pressure off of them. You mentioned earlier 7 to 8 guys. Sometimes we were down to 4 guys. It just depended on the year, depended on what was going on. We had a lot of turnover at that time. But if there's anything that anyone knows about me, and that is I'm very consistent. And so I was going to continue to keep trying, continue to keep plucking away. And, through the failure, through the feedback from the guys, through the feedback from Dave and some other people in the company, we just kept going through. But a lot of phone calls on an everyday basis, not just with guys, tech support calls, customers, maybe complaints, some issues. That's probably where I got into the 17025 so much, just because there was so much of the stuff that so many different customers, whether quality department or coordinators, are calling, and they have this issue, that issue, and so I had to dig deeper and learn a whole different perspective of this job.
Yeah, because they're calling you as a service manager. They're expecting you to have an answer for something that maybe you ain't really dealt with, right?
Exactly.
So now you got to educate yourself.
Exactly. So I spent a lot of time educating myself, leaned on a lot of people. The old quality guy, Jim Coleman, leaned on him heavily. And then anytime I could bend his ear, I was calling him. Same goes for safety. It didn't make a difference. Whatever it was, wherever we may have been lacking, I wanted to be great at coming up with a solution to that problem. That's what I told Dave at that point in time. Hey, I'm going to help be a solution to this problem. And here we go. Let's go.
So the Columbus shop as it sits, you guys, as it sits today, you guys, every morning you guys have a meeting. What's the purpose? What's the point of that? What's it do? What's it get you?
Multiple purposes, actually. For me, I'm standing there, I get told all the time. I actually had a conversation with Kyle on the way up here. He says, when you walk in the room, everybody knows, or everybody thinks, hey, there's one of the smartest guys in the room right now. So when you walk up to that meeting in the morning, you immediately have everybody's attention. And I said, why is that? He said, well, I think it's because everybody just feels like you're intimidating sometimes. I said, you know how many times I've heard that in my life, that I just look intimidating or what have you? And I've kind of come to terms with some of that as well. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the consistency, just the consistency of the approach on a daily basis. And then, for instance, the meetings, when we're sitting there having these meetings, what we're doing is we're discussing the previous day. Sometimes, maybe some guys are just going way down rabbit holes we don't even need to go down. But guess what? They have an opportunity to get it out. They have an opportunity to sit down, go over their previous day, and everybody gets to listen. And then I felt like that would, as a service manager, that was my job, is to really listen. And then is there a training moment that I can use there? Can I hear something that they had an issue with, maybe I didn't catch on the conversation I may have had with them the previous day? And is there something that I can use to help train them so that they can actually learn something from that situation?
So those morning meetings are kind of like a zero calibration. You're going to get everything out on the table, what we did yesterday, what we're doing today, pass word, make sure everybody's up to speed of where they need to be. Everybody knows what the plan is for the day, and then plan ain't going to work out.
Right. And one of the biggest things is and I can think of a couple guys that really helped start this, is it's helped change our culture. Just because of the simple fact that, when they start bringing to the table some of their failures, and they start talking about their failures from the previous day, that leaves the door open for other guys to actually stand up and maybe talk about their failures as well. So, I mean, it's really helped out tremendously with our culture if done and orchestrated properly. And I think all of us as a group have really worked hard to try to make those meetings what they actually are.
How many folks you guys got down there now?
We have, I want to say 9 technicians, and we just hired another one that's starting on the 1st. So
10 techs, yeah. And two sales, Pamela in the office, Dave. Gotcha.
And myself.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to make 11, I think. So.
How's the Columbus branch grown?
Tremendously. In the years I've been there, I mean, the cultures have been a complete shift. I can't say 100%, positive culture, but I mean, very close, very, very close. And everybody looks out for everybody.
So if you had to describe the Columbus culture just in a couple words, like if somebody, you say, okay, Columbus has great culture, like what does that look like in 2 or 3 words? How in 2 or 3 points?
One of the biggest ones is probably just it's rewarding to every individual involved, because just to know that every single guy is on the same page with every single guy, or just give you an example, we have an on-call schedule, everyone's on call, but just because you're on call doesn't mean that, if you have something going on, that you don't have another team member that's going to have your back for that day. If a guy has something going on for that weekend, oh shoot, I didn't know. All he's got to do is make a call or send out a text and say, hey, I need somebody to cover me. Is there somebody that could cover me? I'll cover you the next time. I mean, and this happens a lot. It really, truly does. I mean, these guys work together. I told them a long time ago when we came up with this process, I said, I'm not going to manage this. This is your guys' job to manage. These are the people on call. You're going to manage this. You guys manage it together. If I have to manage it, it's going to be way too much for me to manage.
There's no jobs that the Columbus Shock can't handle, right?
The high
Scale jobs, you guys,
I think in all areas, all categories, I think we've got to
everything from heavy metal to the high tech end of it. You guys are able to handle what you got to handle. Have the resources to do it. And the guys, when you talk to the guys, they feel, everybody understands, okay, you got to work if you want to eat, right? So it's nice if you got a place where you come and work,
right,
and you actually feel like I'm accomplishing something. I'm getting somewhere. There's a little bit of it's a little rewarding, and that's kind of the feedback that you get from the guys. Do you ever hear anything from your customers about how you guys compare to your competition?
Probably almost every day. And not only customers, but even county sealers. I actually just went down and helped out guys on the job yesterday. Had a conversation probably for about 45 minutes with a county sealer. And I mean, he just was raving about Brechbuhler as a whole. Obviously, he only gets to see the Columbus branch, but I was asking him about some of the competitors. We have some guys that actually that used to work in Columbus that work for the competitors, and I help train those guys and, teach some of those guys some of the things. And one of the guys actually taught me in the very beginning. But, I think they're going down a little bit different path, and, the customers are seeing it. We picked up a ton of business from our competitors in Columbus because of it. So, and not only because of them or lack of what they may be doing, but because we're just trying to take things to another level, from you name it, every aspect.
And then you guys also do some team building stuff down there too. 100%. So, what kind of stuff you done in the past?
Our first big one was last year. We ended up going to Lake Erie. We ended up renting a couple boats, charter boats, 2 different boats. At the time we had 10 guys, and actually 12, including me and Dave, and we all went walleye fishing. Our boat didn't do so well though. I was
who was on it?
Me and Tim Trine, Brett Wood, and someone else. I can't remember who else.
Was it Ty?
No, it wasn't Ty. Oh, Brett Cottrey. So we were all on the boat, and Brett Wood he got the biggest fish. So that was good. I think I only caught 2 or 3 walleye. The rest of them were whatever those crazy fish
were. That surprised you, because according to Brent Crabtree, he just sticks a hook in the water and the fish jumps. So
yeah, it was kind of cool. It really was. It was my first time walleye fishing. I love to fish, but I usually bass fish. So it was awesome to get out. The fishing trip was good, but I think the ride up, we stayed in a bed and breakfast type place. Definitely, had a really good time there that evening. Got up early, super early, all to just get to the place so we can wait around for 2 hours because it was raining or storming and all that good stuff. But we finally got out on the water, and unfortunately, the other boat got back way sooner than we did. So, because they limited out pretty quick. So, it was cool. It was a good time. Really, really good time.
And the guys kind of see, when you talk to Columbus guys, they kind of see that. You think about it, you go to work and you spend almost as much time at work as you do with your family, because, you're there at least 5 days a week. Half the time when you're at home, you're sleeping. So they kind of see it, I think, as kind of almost like a family-like environment. It doesn't mean every day is going to be great and perfect and wonderful. It's still work, and so, sometimes things don't go as planned, but I think that they see that there's a lot of, here's the other thing too, correct me if I'm wrong here. Most people want to be known as a professional, whatever it is they do, whatever their trade is. So if you come into a place, if you come into work and, not only is there a negative culture, a lot of negativity, but also the way that the work is being done is not correct and not good. People know that. They realize, hey, I'm I'm being asked to cut corners, and it sets an alarm off inside that, but down there you guys don't cut any corners, correct? And part of that's to eliminate callbacks, right?
We really try hard not to cut any corners, and I tell guys, I've had conversations with you, tell guys all the time, if you're a senior tech and you got another senior tech out there and it's super late at night and you know what the problem is, you've got the experience, all I ask you to do is just hone it. If you make a bad call, you make whatever call and you actually cut whatever corner just because it's 10 o'clock at night. I get it. It's one of those things, just own it. But when you're out there with a new guy, you probably better think twice about doing that. Why? Because that guy is going to gravitate to what you do. That guy's going to, it's almost like monkey see, monkey do. That guy's going to do what, if he thinks it's acceptable, he's going to go ahead and do it. So we have to start off by teaching them the right way. So, and at the end of the day, you said in the very beginning, we are at work, maybe even more than we're at home. It's always been my philosophy, if I'm going to be at work more than I'm going to be at home, I'm going to, number one, make it enjoyable. And why not make it a great, great experience? I think that's my goal every day when I get up to go to work is do everything I can to make it the best experience possible.
Think the guys feel that way?
I think for the most part, yes. I think that's what's really what they've, their outlook is on an everyday basis. They want to come into work and they want to do the best job that they can because they want to take care of that customer. They can. That's where we live there more than we do at home.
And back to kind of trying to prevent callbacks and make sure that scale is fixed correctly. So when you guys go out, let's just use a floor scale for an example. And the guys show up and it's up against the wall. Okay, so they, get it back away from the wall. That scale actually how it weighs correct. Your guys will still go through and they will do a full evaluation, which means they're going to check all the voltages, power, excitation, dead load signal. They're going to put a simulator in the indicator, run their 5-step test. They're going to then do a full evaluation on the load cells. And you guys document that on a form. So all those readings are on there. So when you leave, not only did you correct the original problem, but you made sure nothing else was hiding in the wood pile, right?
Yes. We've had it happen one too many times. And to be honest with you, any guy that's had it happen to him, it's embarrassing. When you go there, you go to fix a scale. Oh yeah, we fixed this immediate issue. And here we go. Yeah, your scale's up and running. And then customer calls back the next day, a week later. Hey, I'm not paying for this. You've got to come back to fix my scale. And so in the beginning, when I started off as a service manager, one of the things that I did to help with that situation, because we had a lot of callbacks back then, was, I started to have the guys call me. Number one, to at the end of the day, just to build a relationship. But number two, to really start to ask some questions. Hey, what did you guys find? How did this turn out? And then it got to a point to where now these guys know if they talk to me at the end of the day, I got to make sure I have all my, P's and Q's. I need to make sure I have all my I's dotted, T's crossed. And Jeff's going to ask me these questions. So actually, again, Kyle and I were just talking about it on the way up here. He said that, sometimes that's a nerve-wracking call because I know that you're going to ask all these questions. So that's really, really helped make sure that we eliminate those callbacks. And to be honest with you, we probably don't even have one a month. And we used to probably have 3 to 5 a week sometimes when I first started on service. But it was kind of embarrassing no matter who you are. I mean, I think anyone that's been part of a callback knows that it doesn't make you feel good right now. And we're have to go back to that customer.
Go to the training side of it, because you've been involved in the training program now for about 8 years. So you were able to figure out how to do the job without any kind of formal scale training. So what's the point? Why do we?
Well, it was rough. A lot of failure, a lot of long nights. Yeah, I might have been making money, but it was rough. I can't tell you how many phone calls, just like I said in the beginning, the aggravating phone calls where you're out there just beating your head up against the wall. And, unfortunately, you're going to learn from those situations. When you beat your head up against the wall for that long, you're not going to forget it. So if I could help in some which way, shape, or form, make it easier for the guys coming in so that they don't have to go through the same heck that I had to go through, then I'm all for that.
So does it speed up the process of getting a guy from 0 to 60?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there were aspects to this job. I tell people this all the time. Just understanding that there's 3 millivolts per volt supplied. I think it was 5 years before I understood that. I mean, these guys are learning this in 2 months or less. Maybe grasping the concept, but maybe within 6 months, really grasping the concept.
And then now and kind of give us a brief description of like the mentorship program. So now after the guys, the new technicians, they go through the initial level 1 training. So now they have the textbook part of it, but there's no substitution for the field. You got to get in the field and actually do it. So how does a mentorship program work, and what does that speed anything up? Does that what that do for us?
Well, I think it's 100% sped the process up. We've got guys graduating or passing this going to the certified tech level within 3, 6, 8, 10 months versus 5 years. I would say there were things I still didn't know or understand. It was a good amount of things in probably 3 to 5 years. When I became service manager, there were so many different things and aspects I still didn't know that these guys are learning in a very, very short time. So I think the structure of, number one, the training, and then now going out into the field and working with these guys and having structured teams meetings with these guys, it definitely is speeding up the process. Now, I will say it does depend on the individual and the amount of engagement that individual is willing to provide for himself. If he's not engaged in the process and he's just ready to move on to the next level, then you're kind of stuck there in that situation. So
correct me if I'm wrong here. So the guys complete the level 1 trades. They hire in, they get a little bit of time in the field, get their feet wet. They come to level 1 training. They get done with that. They go back in the field. And then where the mentorship kicks in is that they're going to go out with a senior technician who's a mentor. We'll get to that in just a second. And the idea is they have a list of tasks that they need to do, and then we need to verify competency, correct? So how do you verify the competency on those tasks when doing these teams meetings?
A lot of it has to do with the situations that they're in, verifying that they are actually doing some of the things that they're taught in level 1, some of the processes, some of the procedures. Do they know what they're talking about? Are they able to refer back to their literature, their manuals, or the things that they research? Maybe what phone calls did they have? Those types of things. Because it's not all about really knowing the job and knowing the aspect to get to the next level. It's more about can you utilize all the resources that you're being provided with to actually get the job done. A lot of it does have to do with testing load cells and doing all the necessary troubleshooting that you need to do. But I think a bigger part of that is, can the guy actually use his resources? I think that's probably one of the biggest aspects.
So you're going to question and find out how, okay. And again, let's just use some low hanging fruit. This new technician says that he went out on a floor scale and he tested load cells.
Mm-hmm.
So you're wanting to see, okay, how did you know whether those readings were good or bad? What resources did you use to do that? And that may be he pulled the manufacturer's certificate, or he used his training manual or his training binder and looked in there. And then you're also, you want to see the evidence of that. In other words, you want to see his readings. There should be something that's not, well, I think it tested this, or I think it did that.
Does he have any notes?
Is there notes? Is there some sort of documentation, correct?
Yes.
So you're verifying that during the mentorship.
Yeah, any guy can tell you in a teams meeting that, hey, I tested the load cells. Okay, well, what were those readings? And during these teams meetings, I'm not doing anything that I didn't do as a service manager for all these years with these conversations I'm having at the end of the day with these guys. Because I would ask these same questions to these guys.
You're just doing it on teams.
Just doing it on the teams we got.
Gotcha.
And so I won't say it's super, super easy to verify competency, but you can verify that, hey, this guy can get to where he needs to get and get this customer taken care of by just utilizing his resources. And then slowly but surely, he's going to learn and understand every little aspect. And if he writes the things down as well as he goes along, takes the notes. Some guys, they really take some notes, like some big long books, as you know. So,
which is good because it's showing that he understands what he did on that job, and he's able to show written evidence of 100% the work that he performed. Now, end of last year, beginning of this year, you started the mentorship certification for some of the senior certified techs. So these are the senior techs that are taking the new techs out in the field and they're doing jobs. Why? What do you need that for?
So there's really three key components to this process. You've got your apprentice technicians, you've got your manager. Manager obviously has to put them in the right situations. You just can't just stick them out there. You really need to try to put them in the right situations. But then you have the most complex, which is the mentors or the senior techs. And I think it's so very important because that guy needs to not only be able to go out there and do the job and do it right and show this guy that he needs to be able to do it, but now he needs to be patient enough or having enough emotional intelligence to be able to work with each individual, every different personality, all the right, he has to have all the right traits in order to be able to do this. And let's be honest, not every guy that works with a new guy is going to be that patient to be able to do that. So we're finding guys throughout the company that have a lot of the qualities and traits that I think we're looking for. And I think we found out, a lot of the different qualities and traits that we're looking for, that these guys can be successful to go out there. I mean, are they going to be perfect at it? No, I don't think so. But I think, because we're not dealt a perfect situation, we're not dealt a royal flush every day, So, it really depends on what you're dealt with, but how you handle that situation. Can you take a bad situation that maybe you were dealt and maybe turn it into a positive, or at least try to reflect on, how that day went, and then maybe we can do better the next day.
And I've heard you talk to some in these mentorship certification meetings. I've heard you talk to the senior techs, and you stress, hey, got to develop a relationship with this new technician, and you don't have to be the smartest person around it, but you got to develop a relationship. Talk to, how's your family doing? What'd you do before started your Brechbuhler, and kind of build that human connection. And then I hear you often talk about on the way to the job, let's get a plan created. This plan may fall apart, but let's get a plan created. Here's what we know about the job that we're about to go on, and here's the things that I would like you to get exposure to, the new technician. And also I've heard you say, look, as a senior tech, you got to kind of fight the urge to jump in and save this guy and tell him what the problem is. You kind of, you can't always do it. Sometimes we're under pressure, but the new technician, he needs to be the one to find the problem.
It's all about taking advantage of the opportunities, and it goes both ways. The apprentice technician taking advantage of the opportunities he's given, and then on the flip side with the mentor, taking advantage of the opportunities. If there's an opportunity there for not only that technician to grow, but maybe for you to grow, not everybody's going to go into this with the right mindset. But then if you think about it, then you can go back into that same situation at a different time and take advantage of that opportunity. Hey, how can I do this differently than I did last time? And that's really what it's all about, is just trying to train yourself, train your brain to go in and look at how you did it this time. And okay, maybe I didn't get the outcome I wanted, and now I can go into it and try and be the other friend. Try to get the outcome we need.
What's the feedback that you've received from the senior techs that are going through this mentorship certification? Is it, nah, this isn't this a waste of time, or no, I see value in it? I mean, kind of.
I think the guys we've had go through it thus far, 100%, they are fully on board. Probably seen them grow more through this process. And I think mainly because of the structure. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I think it has a lot to do with, even on the AT side and not just that, but the training. I think when these individuals feel like the company or people care about them, I think that that's really what it is. I think that they see that somebody cares about their growth and success. It's one thing as a manager to sit there and try to do it on your own, but when they see other people within the company, really trying to work with them, they feel that the company cares about their growth and success.
So, and that's the feedback you're getting from these senior techs. It's not just you think that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's the feedback.
They're telling you, here's what I see, and here's what this has done for me, and it's caused me to grow.
Yeah. Oh, you can see them grow on a daily basis. I mean, there's one in particular, a mentor. I wasn't sure that he was going to be the right fit for a mentor, but I continue to keep seeing every day. Every time I talk to him, there's something different about this guy. He's going about it a different way. So it's going to take time. We're changing who we are, or maybe not changing who we are, maybe changing how we react to some of those things.
And you're integrating one last thing here. You're integrating, I mean, we call it, for fun, we call it PSYOPs, people skills. Okay. So you're integrating people skills into emotional intelligence, the actual art of mentoring somebody, coaching. How's that received? I mean, that's not normal.
To do all that, it goes over everybody's head, I think, a little bit. As a matter of fact, it goes over mine a little bit. It's not how I'm wired.
Sure.
But I think we're all learning as we go. Once again, I think it goes right back to the sense of, caring, that the company cares about our growth and success. Why shouldn't we care about other people's growth and success? I think the more time we put into those guys, especially the guys that actually do care, because I think it is very, very important. I think there's a fine line. If you get a guy early on that you see that guy's really not investing his time, effort, and energy into it, we screwed up in the very beginning of this. We were doing that, and the guys come to me. They're like, Jeff, this is not good. I'm spending all my time and energy and effort on this guy, and he doesn't even care.
You're not getting by.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I think it's just a sense of accomplishment for these guys. So.
Any last words?
I don't think so.
You're a man of many words, Jeff. No, appreciate you coming on, man, talking about your career at Brechbuhler and what you did before, how you learned the trade, and it's kind of been a wild ride for you, everything from concrete to service manager to mentoring, and learned a lot along the way, right?
Enjoy every minute of this. I think it's awesome. Great company, great leaders. It's been one heck of a ride, actually. A lot of ups, a lot of downs.
Sure.
And I think you're gonna have that. That's what life's all about. So.
It always is. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking time to come on the Way It Is podcast and talk with us. And remember our sponsor, Wixton Outfitters. Book a hunt with them.
Yeah, I got my review I've got to put on there as well. So.
All right.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for offering.